Have you ever taken your best machinist, promote them to supervisor, and 6 months later, everyone hates life? Production drops, morale tanks, and your former rock star is questioning every decision. Our guest today, she fixes exactly that. I would like to welcome Becky Becker. She is the training and BD manager at the Manufacturing Association. Welcome, Becky.
Thank you, Brandon. Good to be here.
So this is a pretty hot topic. I think I wrote something on LinkedIn about it not too long ago, and you were like, "Hey, let's have a conversation about this." So I have some predetermined questions. Some of them early, some of them are later, and we're going to dig into what you and I both think is probably the hardest step for individuals is going from doer into leader in that first step. Overarching for the audience, can you give a short sentence on why that is so difficult?
It's a different skill set. So think about the NFL. So Jaden Hurts, right? So he's like the best quarterback, or if you like the Eagles, he's the best quarterback. But right? So he is a very good quarterback. He's very, very skilled. And so if you need a coach, nobody goes, "Hey, let's take him off the field and make him coach," right? Like nobody does that. They're like, "He's an awesome quarterback. We need him on the field." That's not what we do in manufacturing. What we do in manufacturing is go, let's find the best person who knows how to do this and let's pull him out or she out of the place that they are a superstar and let's go put them somewhere else where they don't have the skill set to be fabulous. And we wonder why they struggle. And we don't give people the other skill set that they need. And when you think about an organization like the NFL, and I'm not a big football girl, just between you and
No, it's
I
me
actually
neither,
do
but that's
some
a brilliant
research. Okay.
analogy.
Okay. But I had to do some research. And I said, like, how often is it that we take somebody off the field and we make them head coach? When we look at the NFL teams and right, because we've got a lot of people that pay millions of dollars. They're really good at doing this professional football thing. Only about a third of NFL teams have people who've played football professionally,
Mm.
right? What is going on? And what is going on is leadership and coaching is an incredibly different set of skills than the person who is actually on the field making the plays. And you may have some folks that are really good at that, but what you may need somebody who understands the game, right? But who is really an excellent, excellent coach. And so we're taking our best folks, our best players, and we're pulling them out of the game and we're putting them someplace where they don't succeed a lot of the time.
Do you feel leadership is born or trained, or yes?
I think some people, um, leadership is easier for.
Mm.
So we do a lot of work on DISC styles and things like that. And there are strengths that some people have. So some people connect with others easier. So they make those personal relationships easier. Some people lead easier. It's easier for them to do those things. Some people have an ability to flex their style more so they can sort of get on the same page with other folks who are not like them more. But I think it's a skill set. There's a lot of skills that if you're going to take somebody and say, you know what, we need you to step into this leadership role, that we are going to train you to be a leader. And we know the military does it all the time. But here's what the Navy does, because they do a lot of work with the Navy. The week that you get out of boot camp, they start working on leadership skills because they know they want the pipeline filled. They know that they need leaders. Military's done a ton of work. And what they know is if you take a team that's struggling, change the leader.
You're right. There is a super playbook that already exists.
Right. Yeah. And for manufacturing, the struggle sometimes in organization is we now have not just one level of folks that aren't great at leadership. It's possible we might have two levels or maybe three levels of folks that are not great at leadership just because they themselves don't have the skills. And so we move people up and now there's nobody even to coach them when we get them there. And when I think about training new supervisors, I can give people the skill set. I can train them on what a skill set is. Kind of like if you train somebody how to parallel park. I mean, you can explain how to do it. You can even do it with them. but I'm not there 2 weeks from now. Somebody's still got to parallel park with them for a long period of time until they actually have it. And I think that that is the when we're talking about supervisors and supervisors without skills is they've got to go back to an organization once we help folks understand what the skills are, where they're going to practice and nurture those and people are going to mentor those. Not that we're going to say, hey, let's parallel park once. Oh, good. You did it once. Good. You're going to be able to pass that test every time it comes up. And that's part of the struggle too.
It's interesting you say that because we do a lot of one-on-one coaching for our newer leaders that step into those roles. And I mean, that could go weekly for a year or two. And
Oh
that
my
happens
goodness. Yes.
quite often with us. And it's so interesting you say that because the one thing I say when we go down that road with newer leaders, or maybe even anyone who's struggling in their position, is the first thing I explain to them is you need to go back to your team, explain to them you are working with management, you are working on things you're not good at, and you're not going to get it right because we don't give people the grace to screw up for a long time when we're already angry at them. We're just like, fix it now because you're annoying me. When like we have to allow those people who are trying to evolve to also continue to screw up, but continue to get things right. And it's like a repetition process where you gotta touch the stove. That was too hot. Touch the stove again. That was too hot. And I'm not sure even the people that are directly working for that leader always give the leader the grace to learn through that as well.
I was with, I get to train and touch a lot of organizations, and Manufacturer Association has over 500 members. And so I get to impact with a lot of folks in a lot of different cultures. And one of the cultures, one of their values is radical grace. And what
Mm,
that is, and in this organization, they do a lot of very specialized manufacturing construction, a lot of one-off, a lot of very high pressure things that they do. But part of their organization is if they get a work product and there's a mistake with it, they don't believe that that last person messed it up on purpose. They believe, one, that that person worked to the best of their ability. And now that they've recognized it, they're going to help fix it. And so maybe it's going back to that last person. And so it's basically giving people the benefit of the doubt every single time.
yeah.
And it's a culture of that. And so if your culture is that, if you have that on the if the culture is that, if the leaders have that, if you want your employees, your direct reports, your individual contributors to give supervisors the benefit of the doubt, the first time that happens shouldn't be when they get a new leader. They should have experienced it themselves, right? That
Mm.
you've set up that culture where you have that grace, that you know what it looks like. Probably because the first day that you got there and something happened, people had grace with you. But I think you do have to develop people's skills before you put them into the role. And I think that's the mistake that people are making. They're trying to put people on the varsity team that haven't played Little League yet, right? And so they at least have to understand the rules and the concepts and have at least some rules of play. Maybe they haven't mastered all of it yet, but they shouldn't be surprised by some of it. That you're going to have to give feedback. And what does that look like? And how do you give feedback based on the values of your organization? And feedback is just not negative. How do you give reinforcing feedback, right? What does it mean? How is it that you catch your people doing things well and let them know, one, that you saw it and why it matters? Now, if you are in a culture where people appreciate one another, 70% of appreciation in the best organizations happens peer to peer. So if you've got supervisors who already know how to do that, now you're just moving to the next level. If you've got a good mentorship program in your organization, right, and you've been mentoring new folks, maybe that come in or folks that cross train, things like that, and you've been helping train people on skills and you know that everybody does not think the way that you do, Brandon, that's not a surprise, right? You know, everybody's not wired the same way that you are, right?
Experienced it all week.
Yeah. And so as you go out and you work with people, you're going to have to change up your style to meet them where they are. And if you already know how to do that, right? Okay, well, that would be good. And what about, are you coaching somewhere else in your life? Like yesterday I was at one of our members, and one of the folks in my class coaches little league, no, softball. Yes, little league softball. Okay, let's know that somebody has that skill set, doing it 5 or 7 years. Okay, they've worked with a lot of people, right? That is a much different experience than someone who's not had that.
Yeah, that's really good. Even just the language you're using, I think it was a big turning point for us of so many things you said there with just the behaviors that we would expect, meeting people where they are. Like as a leader, you have to evolve because all of your teammates need something a little bit different. Not one size fits all. That kind of mentality and just that kind of language. You could see the maturity of the environment change of what was acceptable, what was not, being adults, what that actually means. Like yelling is not acceptable. You can get performance without ever yelling at anyone. Yes, that exists. Like all that kind of stuff. It's interesting. I want to go back to early days of young Becky. So you grew up surrounded by manufacturing, sawmills, woodworking, craftsmanship. What's one story from your childhood that still shapes how you think about leadership today?
Leadership.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm actually going to use my mother. So when I think about a supervisory role and somebody who is a fantastic supervisor, my dad is the manufacturing side. My mother actually was a frontline supervisor at Cornell University, and she had dining staff and chefs, and so she had like everybody from the person that cleans the trays to professional folks reporting to her, and then she switched over and she did housekeeping. And so you can kind of think about the individual contributors that were reporting to her. And she really, met people where they were. She figured out, why was it they were here, what was important to them, and she was really big on appreciation. And they would have a snowstorm at Cornell because it's Ithaca and there's a lot of snow there. And one of the things that she stuck with me the longest was the folks that came in and they actually slept there because they had to feed 1,700 people a day, right? Okay, so you got to feed a lot of students. She sent letters home to the family and said why their parent staying, their mom, their dad staying made a difference. And people came in and said and cried and said, "You know what? My family doesn't understand why what I do makes a difference." This is the first time anybody ever told my parent my a family why what I do mattered. I had somebody last week in a class that said, "Yeah, somebody did that for me, and it's huge." So when my mother would have sort of a, I'm going to say open time where you could transfer, particularly in the summer, because some of the jobs went away. My mother would have a line of people that would come and want to work for her. And management said to her, "What's going on? Why is it that people want to work for you?" It's because she figured out where people were. She would work with people. She was a big person understanding benefits about 401ks, and she would talk to people about, where do you want to be professionally and where do you want to be with your family. And there's a lot of work to be done. She took things for national competitions, and she was very technically savvy and did a lot of innovative things. But she really wanted people to know that they mattered, and she could connect them to the mission and the vision of what her team needed to do into the organization. And so much of the time, a supervisor, first of all, doesn't know what your values and mission of the organization is. And I think that when you're interviewing, ask that person you're interviewing. So what are the values of our organization? You are going to get deer in the headlights so much of the time. If you don't know what our values are, how can you tell an employee why what they're doing is good? I mean, you can tell what they did was good, but you can't tell them why. And how are you going to know what to recognize? And so when we can tie what people are doing to the values or help them understand why they missed the mark, not because they didn't meet the production standard, because we want them to meet the production standards, but because we didn't meet integrity because our customer depends on us, or we didn't meet the
Yeah.
quality standards or whatever it is, that's what we've got to talk to folks about. But when we can't put the pieces together for ourselves, we can't do it for other people.
Yeah, it took me quite a while to wrap my head around the whole mission, vision, importance, getting there, getting people involved, defining that as a company versus a bunch of managers sitting in a room and figuring out what it is. And we did a good job with it actually this year with the process that we came up with. And I got a lot of feedback of thank you for involving me in this. Thank you for helping me. Like, so if you're not sure how to do that, it can be as simple as a Google form with some questions to figure out what your company values with using very specific questions and then kind of updating that to a one sentence. It can do it pretty quickly with AI as well. And just being a part of that process for people who are of high value towards your company or really speak the values of your company was huge for us.
Well, and even folks, I've done that work in another organization, but letting folks know, hey, what makes us special, right? What makes us special here, and letting people have input into that conversation. And you will get themes over and over again. And sometimes just letting people have input, now they know it's coming. We thank them for their input, right? And we go, based on all of the feedback that we got from everybody, here's what, we crafted. And so now everybody feels bought in. They knew that you were working on them because you asked them for input like 3 weeks or 3 months ago. And I sometimes we only take our high performance contributors with us. And I think that if we really are serious about helping folks understand mission, vision, value, we need to pull people along from the bottom of our organization as well. They need to be part of the conversation. In companies that are ESOPs, so employee stock owned companies, right? They're going to pull people in at all levels because they want them to stay with the organization for long periods of time. And I think that that's an opportunity. So that 18-year-old that just showed up to have a conversation about, hey, what makes us special? And they might not know, but at least they start thinking about it.
Yeah. Yeah, I lived in butterflies and meadows for quite a long time, Becky, and I've realized that even though I believe everyone should be and want to be in the boat and in the meadow.
Right.
Yeah.
So you can invite people and some people don't want to be there with you. I get that. No, I get that.
Yeah.
So I get it. The other thing is if you are somebody, we do a lot of discs. So if you're a D or an I, meaning you move very, very quickly, right? If you've got folks who are C's and S's, so those are folks that are steadiness and conscientiousness, what they need is they need to put the question out and they need time to sit with it. And that's part of what we talk about with style as well, is that we need to create space for people. And so some people are not going to get on board. Oh, okay. It might be because they don't believe that they matter, right? Some people aren't in the meadow with us is because their previous experiences, yeah, you said you wanted me there, but you really didn't,
That's
right?
so
Or
good. The baggage.
nobody ever invited them before,
Yep.
right? And but we know is in organizations where you want to push innovation, it's not the mid-level folks maybe coming up with the best new ideas. It's the folks on the floor.
Yes.
And so getting those folks to think on a really continuous basis. And as a supervisor, how do we set up that place where we continue to let folks know over and over again until they believe us that we really do value them. We really do want them to show up tomorrow and the next day and the day after that. And this place is a place that they should be investing their life.
Yeah, I guess it just goes back to as human beings, all we all want is just some appreciation, right? Like it's at the core of our being.
And affiliation, which is connectedness. We want to
Yeah.
know that somebody, when we show up at work, somebody noticed. Or if we didn't show up at work, somebody noticed. Um, so I know we kind of got off track there, but
Oh, you're good.
helping supervisors understand why part of the reason why you can't get the best out of people is because some of those fundamental things are not in place, because you haven't built trust with people, because you haven't built rapport with people. And what does it mean to build trust? We spend a lot of time
I
talking
bet.
about what it means to build trust and how do you build trust and what does it look like. Um, that's key, right? So that's a skill. It's a feeling, but it's a skill.
Hmm. Give me 3 ways to build trust for someone new coming into frontline supervisor.
So there's an ABCD model,
Oh,
actually of trust, but one of it is part of it is connectedness. Part of it is you follow through on what it is that you say. Are you believable? Like when you say something, do folks really believe it? And then do they see you as somebody who has the knowledge to share with them? And in manufacturing, I don't believe that that's the piece that's missing, right? I believe that we promote people who are technically knowledgeable. They have good operational understanding. So that's not the piece. It's the believability, the connectedness, and the dependability that are the opportunity areas for most folks.
That's well said. That's beautiful. So surprising to me, you've coached people in 43 states, Puerto Rico, and the Virgin Islands.
Yes.
What's the most unexpectedly human leadership moment you've seen across all of that travel?
That no matter what happens, you need to be ready to get up and lead. So, one of the things that we talk about is, it's easy to lead on the good days. How how is it that you're going to be able to lead on the tough days? And so we spend some time talking about fight or flight, right?
Yeah.
About what it is, about what it feels like, and about some leaders continue to get triggered by it because they don't understand what's happening. They don't understand the physiology of it. So I have trained in places where um, we had sewer backups. We had not hurricane, tornado warnings. I think that was the hardest because the phones kept going off, right? So people kept getting like pulled away. Um, Places, so that ability to still meet people where they are, to change up what you're doing and meet people where they are. I've been so blessed to, I've worked with people in California. I've worked with people in Montana. I work with people in Miami, Florida. Excellent.
Let me ask you this because you mentioned about like the hard times. And I find the issue, I've heard this often. I can tell by the way this person enters a room what kind of day they're going to have. Like, how important is it for leadership to stay consistent and make yourself available even on the crappy days to not have that roller coaster?
One of the exercises that we do with folks is I say to these new leaders, tell me about the best supervisor you ever had. And they're really good at this because even though they haven't kind of thought about all the skills that they need and that they want, those type of things, a lot of them has experienced it. So when you get like 20 people in a room and they start talking about supervisors that have made an impact on their life and all of that, the word that comes up that recently that kind of captures that is the word unflappable.
Ooh.
Okay. And so this is part of that fight or flight work that we've done. There's another concept called the mood elevator, which is you have to lead yourself first. And so you have to, that wasn't new for you, right? And so you're responsible for how you show up in the room. And so if people are, and I'm going to say this, making you angry, right, all the time, you got to own that. And that is on you because that is you processing the situation, right? And so what it means is you don't have the skills around it yet, right? I can teach you the skills around it, right? I can explain to you what's happening. You and I can have a whole nother conversation offline about how men and women handle this differently and about, but anyways, but yeah, that's what's happening. What's happening is that you don't have sort of control of that, and you don't know how to separate the emotions from the physiology sometimes of what's happening, and you don't know how to get yourself out of it. The U.S. Navy SEALs teach a concept called what's it called? Four square breathing, I think. And so there are breathing techniques that'll change your physiology. And it's an exercise that we do as well. But when you get good at it, you can change your emotion in 6 beats of your heart. Now, I got to tell you, I'm not there yet, Brandon. I got to tell you that I am not there.
6.
6. Okay. 6. I'm not there. But when you know it, first of all, when you know that you can do it, right? And you understand that there's a process, you can do it. The other thing is this, is once you figure out what's happening, you can stop it sooner. So think about that. Think about in manufacturing, if something is going to go off the rails, we say to that production employee, we say, look, at the point at which you see that there's an error, I want you to shut that machine down. I'll give you the authority to say, you know what, shut it, don't let it run for 8 hours, right? Because that's a whole lot of rework that we do not want to do, right? So kind of like that on yourself, right? The point at which you know it's happening, what's your internal process that you are going to get control of this, and what's it going to look like, and how is it you've practiced over and over again? Don't worry, life is going to give you lots of opportunities to practice this. Don't worry. People, don't, and the other thing is, don't worry if people are not like you. Once you figure it out, those people are going to show up all the time. You're going to have all these opportunities to practice these new skills at home, at Thanksgiving. Oh my goodness, it's going to be
Every family
great.
function.
Exactly. Yeah, it's going to be great. So I think that's the other thing coming out of this is we see that the skills that we're teaching folks, these leadership skills, these life skills, are not only going to make the relationships with the coworkers and the peers and the organization better. Hopefully, you're going to be able to take those skills back and maybe teach them to, the um, high schoolers that they're coaching in softball, or their own kids, or use them, like I said, when you're sitting at the Thanksgiving table. And I think that there's a lot of value, but because we've in the past called them soft skills, and what I've really heard them is called is essential skills. Um, we don't. We haven't really trained people in manufacturing to do these, right? It's not part of our culture a lot of the time. And so when we set people up and we move them to this supervisory role, 60% of new managers fail in 24 months. And the cost of one bad promotion in the first year, $150 to $300,000.
I
We
believe it.
have we have a chronic problem that we do not have good processes in place as manufacturers. If you had a product that you put out that, you know, 60% of the time wouldn't last 2 years, you would go, "Okay, we gotta rework this thing." But
That's
we somehow haven't taken ownership of it. We thought it was an HR role. It's somehow just we don't wanna deal with it. It's not important. It's costing us so much money. We don't even understand. The average amount of training a new supervisor gets in manufacturing is less than 8 hours before they take the role.
that's
75
sad.
yeah, 75% of employees that leave your organization, a large contributing factor of that is a supervisor.
I believe it.
And right now in
Man,
manufacturing, there is not more talent to go get. So
no.
either your supervisor is the person who is holding on to them, right? So they are sticky like adhesive, or they are breaking that trust in those relationships, and your best folks are walking out the door. Or you're not getting the best out of people because at the end of the day, they don't feel like they matter or they're appreciated.
Happy people are efficient people. That's my equation. It's really simple. If you're happy and you're in your job, you
Right.
are going to be more efficient. And that's on happiness comes from every direction. It's your supervisor, it's how you work, it's the lighting, it's the tools, it's the amount of work or non amount of work. It's all of the things. At home, what are you bringing in from home into work? Is that breaking you down? Like it's the whole gamut.
So when we can work with supervisors and help them understand that, and look, if you've got a supervisory course and they say we can help your supervisor in 1 day, okay, that is an event, that is not training, right? And so, look, that's not going to work for you. And we've been doing this for a long time at the Manufacturers Association. It is a longer process. And if I had a wand, I would put every person that you think would be a good supervisor through like a supervisor one course, which is 5 half days over 5 weeks, and really get them to understand, because when you're talking about stepping in a supervisory role, it's not all the stuff that we just talked about. It's how the relationships are going to change with your peers, because most of the time we take a machinist or a welder or a production person and we promote them to a supervisor of the people yesterday they were best friends with, and we damage those personal relationships in really not great ways. And so we really have to help people understand what it means to step up. We got to give people short-term assignments. So I'm all about finding temporary duty assignments. And when you promote somebody in the organization, do it on a trial basis and say, look, Brandon, the reason why we want you to step up to supervisor is because you are incredibly valuable to this organization. We love the knowledge and skills that you have around CNC machining. We think that you're going to be able to take that knowledge and your, how much you appreciate this organization, your loyalty for this organization, and lead a team of folks. But here's the thing. If you step into that role, and you find out it's not a good fit for you, we find out that we haven't prepared you well enough. Here's what you need to know. We don't want you to leave. We want to have a path for you to come back and put you and keep you in the organization and keep you in a place where you are still going to be here and you're going to be happy and you're going to be successful. And a temporary duty assignment lets you do that. It kind of lets that person see if it's going to be good for them. And it's the organization says, yep, it's going to be good for us. And Brandon, if you go, hey, I really want to be a supervisor, then if I'm the manager, I say, okay, Brandon, I absolutely hear that. Here's what we got to do. We have not prepared you well enough. Here's where we see that we've got to get you up to up to varsity level for folks. And maybe here's some things that we didn't even think about going forward. Because if that's what you want, we want you to be successful here. But the other thing is sometimes the only place where people can get ahead in our organizations is we make them supervisors. I don't know why we do that. We need to create technical tracks for people where they can become subject matter experts, right? And so the reason why some people end up there, it's the only place they can go without leaving the organization.
That's so well said. I just had that conversation today as I was doing my rounds of if you just want to build for the rest of your life, there will be a track that you will continue to grow in that role because it's the passion. It doesn't have to be this manager, PM, supervisor, superintendent role for everyone. It's not for everyone. It doesn't have to be. If you love building and you want to become the best builder at the company, that is highly valuable as well. Yeah, that's really interesting you say that. And I don't think we talk enough about that. That was a deep cut, Becky. I like that one.
I
So
think about all the time. Like I get up in the morning, I think about frontline supervisors and submarines, Brandon. I mean, that's half and half kind of what I'm doing these days.
so outside of thinking about training 24/7, what
Okay.
do you actually get to nerd out on? What's your reset button?
So my husband says this to me because my husband's a very technical person. Like he rebuilds record players for his hobby and like vintage record players. He's like, you don't have any hobbies. And I'm like, and I do. My hobby is people. So I want to go meet new people. I want to go talk to new people. One of the hobbies that I have right now is Manufacturer Association is coming up on our 120th anniversary.
Woo.
And yeah, it's very exciting. And one of the things that we are going to do better in the future, and I'm just playing a little bitty part of this, the organization is really stepping up on this, is we're going to tell our history better. And in 1941, three of our members came together and surveyed every machine, every person, and 245 companies, and then came together in big contracts as a community to support World War II. It was called the York Plan. And we have not done a good job helping folks understand how valuable it was. And so I have a little, I have some background and I like history, and my grandfather, who was the running the sawmills, was a local historian, so I'll blame him. Anyway, so and I got my AI out and I fell down some rabbit holes, and I found out there was a 45-minute movie made in about 1942 here in York that was never released on the York Plan, and I'm really hopeful that it's sitting at either the National Archives. And so, working with the Congressman's office, and so my passion project right now is to see if we can find it and to release it for the very first time, so folks can see the really cool stuff. Because look, yes, right? So I'm super excited. York is so amazing. And things are so cool. Yeah, I really want to be a part of that. And so, yeah. So,
Brilliant.
yeah. So hopefully, there we go. Yeah.
Wow.
And
That's
then,
a
and then I also am a cantor at church. And so that's another thing. And so that is much more technically, than what I normally do. So yeah, those are the types of things I do.
yeah, wow. That's a banger right there. There's a movie that's never been released about York. Let's go.
Yeah, and it's super interesting. Yeah, the people that were involved in it were went on to do really fantastic stuff. And Frank Cappa, who It's a Wonderful Life, was involved with the project, and it's very, yeah, it's amazing. And so I'm just that's my thing. I'm just putting it out there, right? So if I can manifest it, really hopeful.
So, for individuals in manufacturing or anything who
Mhm.
are listening to this, if technical skills isn't enough, what should companies be evaluating before they hand someone a supervisor badge? What's like a mini checklist that we can say as companies to say, look for these things?
So I think that you really want to look to see why. So ask questions. Why do you want this role? Right. So really sort of do that check in. What's going on? And why do you believe that you would be a good supervisor? Some people are very passionate and they will tell you, look, I want to lead this team of people. I think I can make an impact. Right. And some people it is really, really important for. Um, they might have a lot of previous experience. I mean, I've gotten into these supervisor classes and found out that I had people that had 15 years of military experience. And so they really have had previous leadership experience, or they had leadership experience in some other kind of role before they came to manufacturing. And they felt like, hey, I understand manufacturing now. This would be a really great opportunity for me to use my leadership skills that I have as well. So now I'm in a position to use kind of all of me here. I think that that's an opportunity. I think some folks, maybe they feel like they can do it better maybe than other folks that might move into that role. Like they want that challenge and they see it as a real opportunity professionally for them. So, but I think you have to ask, how are they going to be? Do they have some background? And some people do have some innate ability for it. And ask people, like, where have you led other places? And it might be in high school that they led teams. It might be um, in some other, I don't say nonprofit, but some other volunteer roles where they've led lots and lots of people. People, if they want to lead, there's lots of opportunities outside of work to lead others. And you might be really surprised at the skill set that your folks have that they could bring to it.
Yeah, I think that's a really good one. I'm not sure people probably recognize maybe some of the extracurricular leadership skills that they're testing all the time through. I coach my kid's soccer team and I deal with some of the parents, right? And all that stuff is kind of sharpening that knife all the time.
I think you should ask questions about how they deal with conflict management. Talk about it, right? Yeah. Talk about how, tell me about a time that you had to have a really difficult conversation with somebody and how you maintain that relationship. Um, and it is very difficult, especially for folks that are maybe young. So
Mm,
if you are 18, 19, 20 years old, you may not have had those opportunities yet. And so if you have not been trained on those skills, you may not have them yet. Okay, well then let's make sure that we give people that type of training. So yeah, I'm trying to think if I'm asking, yeah, like, can they communicate not only what folks need to do, but why they need to do it? Do they have perception taking? Meaning,
mm,
can they understand a situation from somebody else's role? So if you are the manufacturing supervisor and something happens, can you tell me how that's going to affect shipping? As a supervisor, I'm now not just responsible for myself, I'm responsible for my team. And I have to keep a lot of my peers sort of in the loop about what's happening.
yeah.
And we know that our best supervisors have built those peer relationships as well. And they understand not only what's happening in their team, but what happens before the work gets to them and what happens after the work gets to them. Um, and I would ask them to tell you about a time where, the wheels did fall off. What did you do? Right? How did you step in? How did you help resolve it?
Yeah, that's really good. Along those lines, how do you help companies who not choose the star performer every time and not have resentment? Because, like you said, our culture is star performer gets supervisor and we move forward, and that doesn't always work. So, how do you promote or have a promotion process that is fair to everyone?
So a couple things. One is having alternate tracks, right? So if You can be um, a subject matter expert, right? If you're the person that maybe, I don't know, goes to client sites or and looks develops new clients or what, or you're a mentor, those type of things. I think the other thing is you say, look, if you want to be a supervisor, then we need you to be involved in mentorship. We need you to um, go to some additional training before you get there. We need you to step into some leadership roles when they show up, right? It's not just about going, yes, me, I'll do an interview. It is demonstrated abilities. Um, and if the first time you say, hey, I want to be a supervisor is because it got posted on a board, well, shame on us for never having that conversation with you. But I would have the conversation about NFL, right? Look, we don't take the best person off off the floor unless that person has a great skill set and leadership as well, right? And so, if that's what you want, then we've got to make sure that it's developed. But I would say the other thing is, got to make sure the other folks that are already mentored, right? So
Step
they're
in.
ready to step in because if you see a supervisor that continues to go back and do the actual work, that's what's happening is they don't have the skills to supervise or they're failing at it or they're not doing it well. Maybe they're not failing at it, but they don't feel successful at it. And the place where they do feel like a superstar is when they, you know, do the maintenance work, right? When they get the machine to come back online. And that's where they're expert, right? And why are you surprised, right? That somebody who is a supervisor who's not skilled, it's painful for them to have these conversations with people. They don't want to do it.
Yeah, that's really, really good. And you actually, I don't usually have this conversation with people because I don't hear it often of like when we're uncomfortable as human beings, we go back to what we're good at. Because one, it makes you feel good. It's a path that you know, and it's so comforting when you're uncomfortable. Yeah, that's really, really good. Which then you would either go to the shop floor, you would go back to fixing things. For me, I would go back to focusing on project management when I'm super uncomfortable because it's the place I love and a place I know I'm really good at and it's safe. Yeah, that's really, really good.
So when we're developing supervisors, we have got to mentor them continually, right?
Mm.
And so the first time that a supervisor sits in, I'm going to say a disciplinary action or something like that, right? Should have been when they were a temporary supervisor or in a part, right? In a low, it's kind of a, um, they didn't have skin in the game, right? So they were the second
Yeah.
person in the room. They weren't conducting it; they were watching it. Um, or the first time you have to go, as supervisors are agents of the employer, it's a legal status, and you might have to go to unemployment comp hearing. Maybe they're all virtual now, but the first time a supervisor has to go, like, testify on behalf of the organization, shouldn't be that. They should have gone as an observer, right? So they understood what was going to happen and what was going to be required of them, right? So it wasn't a surprise, and about why it matters, and about how we're going to help you and help the organization and make sure that we do what we need to and treat people with respect all through a process, right? Um, and so I think that that's an opportunity.
Yes, it's almost having the sandbox before you're in the hot seat. Let me play around, let me build things, let me screw things up. It's not going to hurt that many people, but allows me a place where I can really try things and be vulnerable before I have to be really insecure.
Or, if you're in a 90-day assignment, temporary duty assignment, you step into that role and you go, "Oh, I hate this," right?
And that's
Right. And
okay.
that's what happens. But what happens is now they've backfilled the position, right? And
Yes.
so there's
Ooh.
no place for you to go, right? So you either have to stay in this position that you hate, you can't go back to the position that you love. And that's why a lot of these folks leave our organizations. So what we did was we just heard our best player and now they're working for somebody else.
Yeah. And the tempered idea is the other reason I think it's so brilliant is it also takes the pride hit away from it. Right? Because going backwards to what you were because you couldn't do the supervisor role is a huge pride fit for all of us or a lot of us. But it's actually not if the value or your strength or superpower is in what you were doing before. You just wanted to try it out. And this kind of temporary is a try. It's a shadowing. It's it's all the things we call in all the other industries except for our own.
And look, if they wanna be supervisor, but you decide they don't have the company decide they don't have the skill set yet, have that conversation and go,
Yes.
"Brandon, we we love you. We want you to stay here. We wanna thank you for stepping up." But here's the thing, there is still a knowledge gap there, and we want to set you up for success. And so here's what we want you to go back where to not go back, but to be a superstar for us, and we want to give you and get you the skills, so then
Yes.
the next time that comes up, you're going to go and you're going to be able to go there and go, I got this, right?
Yeah. It's really good. And, some of those which are just the tough conversations we were talking about earlier is what you're good at, what you're not good at, how we're going to fill the gap to get you where you want to be. That's the playbook. Like everyone can
Right.
have these conversations. They don't have to be super uncomfortable. They are uncomfortable to start, but if you come with the right ideas and the right rhetoric and you appreciate the person, it's not that uncomfortable. Well, it doesn't have to be, I should say.
We've got to get better at having difficult conversations. Right.
Yes.
Right.
Go, Becky.
So Brandon, can I tell you my threshold for difficult conversations?
Yes, please.
2022, my sister was in a motor vehicle accident. She got hit by a drunk driver, and she was in the ICU for traumatic brain injury. And I'm sitting in a family waiting room, and a young doctor, I'm going to guess like a resident, like 26, 28, comes in and has a conversation with a daughter and her, I'll say spouse, and has a conversation that her father's going to die. And I'm sitting here and I'm listening, and I've been doing this a long time, and I go, "Man, that is the hardest conversation I've ever heard anybody have." And I've had some really hard conversations with people, and he did it with incredible kindness,
Mm.
but at the same time, it didn't matter that she didn't wanna hear it. It wasn't flexible, right? There wasn't flexibility to this conversation. There was respect, there was clarity, there was kindness, right? And I said, "Man, that is the hardest conversation I have ever heard anybody have." And I said, "You know what? If I need to have a conversation and it's not harder than that, I'm who considerably older than that doctor, right, can step up and have that conversation. I need to step up and have a conversation with that employee or that supervisor or my peer or my spouse or whoever it is, understanding that I can do that with incredible kindness and I can do it with
Yeah.
incredible respect and what it looks like, but I'm not going to walk away from it." And when you have a standard now, you're like, okay, is it harder than that?
Mm. Your analogies and examples are really good. In the space of putting them, I can, you must use it for your learning because it puts in such great context that you go, okay, I now can comprehend what she wants me to do. It's really good. Yeah, you are correct. That would be a absolutely horrible conversation. And if it's not worse than that, get in there and let's get it done.
First
Mm,
thing that a supervisor can do is wait till a annual evaluation and tell somebody that they haven't done well. And so think
go,
about
Becky.
if you're gonna coach, let's say you're gonna coach little league. Nah, let's make it T-ball, okay? And somebody gives you 8, I don't 10, I don't even know how many you get these days, 10, like 6 to 8-year-olds,
It
right?
sounds horrible either way.
Okay, whatever, right? Whoever those people are, those young ones are, right? And you're the coach and you're supposed to get them to move in the right direction and play as a team. And if you said, "Hey, at the end of the game, I'll give you some feedback," or at the end of the season, or just before we go out to play another team, that's the point at which I'm going to tell you what you've been doing wrong. You're not a very good coach. Okay.
Yes.
The point at which you're there every single day telling people not what they're doing wrong, but what they got to do right. And you're helping them with the skills so they can figure out what they need to do. And when they start running in the wrong direction, you go, "Oh, this way, come on, here we go. You got this," right? With respect and building that rapport with people that they honestly believe that the reason why you showed up today is to help them get better, right? That is what a supervisor That's what you're looking for in a supervisor, I believe.
That was a banger, Becky. That was awesome. I totally agree. That's a very good analogy too. And it puts into context, especially for supervisors, to like your job is to help them get better every single day. And encouragements, having the conversation of this is exactly what I need you to do and why, and then just keep it going. And you're right. People will explode with potential. Oh, I love that. So, your classes at the Manufacturing Association, what does a supervisor program, how does your supervisor program different from the usual? Send them to a class and hope for the best approach.
Manufacturers Association, first of all, we've been doing supervisor training as far back as I can see since 1975, but it's training, yeah, before that probably too. But anyways, we have a supervisor series that moves into a master supervisor certificate. So supervisor one is 5 half-day sessions. It teaches folks concepts like, um, how do you orient folks? How do you build rapport? How do you build trust? Um, Relationships, right? How do you build relationships? A lot of feedback, role playing, a lot of building on knowledge that people have and already putting in context. So that's 5 half-day sessions. If I had a magic wand before anybody stepped into a leadership type of position or even one of those 90-day positions, they'd have that. So they at least understood what it was you'd be able to do. So that's 5 half days. And then a second supervisor two, which is also 5 half days, similar content, but at a higher level. And then 3 and 4, which is to combine is another half days, which is on problem solving, um, some ideas, brainstorming, some other concepts that folks need to have. And then 2 electives. And it could be something like HR law, because sometimes your supervisors have they don't know what an FMLA claim is. They can't identify it. Or maybe it's time management, or maybe it's the 7 habits of highly effective people, right? So 2 things. So we do public sessions. The next round will start in January. Um, we also do on-site. So we can go to companies and work with them. Um, and we often work with groups of folks. So say that you don't have a supervisory program, we can go on site, work with those folks, but you're going to promote people from now on. And the great thing is that the supervisor series here, that public content mirrors what we would have taught in private content. And so you have this continual ability to move people through the same content over and over again, no matter where they are. Right. So that's the wonderful thing about Manufacturers Association. Our current curriculum was written by a gentleman named Tom Blasey, who is also another national trainer, another person who got to train all over the country, um, and he's still training with us as well. But we've been incredibly blessed. And so, if folks want to know, they should go out to the website, and we tailor things as well. But that's what we love to do, is we love to make sure that our companies have what they need to help their folks get ahead and be successful.
How, as a company, like on our side, how can we prep our supervisors to be the most effective for you when they're coming to class?
So one of the challenges is that, say, the manager of managers oftentimes don't have any supervisory background either. So there's
Mm.
actually something called a 5-star leader class. And once again, if I had a magic wand, the upper level management would be aligned with what is going to happen for their entry level folks. So when those folks came back to the organization, you would understand a concept like, what are the results ladders, right? So what does it mean to make investments in the relationship bank? Like, so you would be able to continue to coach those folks because you understood what the concepts were, and because you've gone through that, you have the knowledge, but also it's been connected to your individual sort of strategic plan as well. And so now you can take the knowledge of the strategic plan and the skills and marry them together as the manager of the frontline supervisors for them. So I think it's making sure that when the manager comes back to you, you've got folks in a position with the skills to mentor.
Love that. Great answer there. What's a leadership belief you've had early in your career that you now think was totally wrong?
I think that not everybody can be a leader. I think if you are passionate about it, and you feel a call for it, even somebody who maybe is, I'll say, shy or introverted, right? Or so maybe they very may well be one of your best leaders, right? Maybe one of your best supervisors
Love
because they'll
that.
listen. Some of them will listen to their people. Some of them are really tied in, right? They'll listen. They figure out their people. And they're really knowledgeable and about your organization, and they'll spend a little time and they'll sort of study folks. And the other thing is, are your supervisors setting up your folks for success in your organization? If you're a supervisor, your job is not to keep everybody in their same role. Your job is to figure out what everybody's superpower is and how is it you're going to develop them. So if they're here 5 years or 10 years or 15 years from now in this organization, they are, contributing at a higher level, right? That they've
Agreed.
advanced professionally and personally. And so whatever they're great at, you've aligned with what the organization needs, right? And ideally that they haven't had to go outside the organization to do that, which isn't to say some people don't leave and come back, and that's okay too. But yeah.
So it's so interesting because that's my COO and my relationship. He is the quiet, confident one, and I am the outwardly I just ask lots of questions one. And he'll wait for a meeting and not say any words, and then drop an absolute banger bomb at the end of the meeting that like encapsulates everything that we're like. It's such a great. I love having someone who's so opposite of me of that we can really complement a room when we need to. Um, and just, yeah, I appreciate everything he does and the way he does it because it's so completely opposite of me. And it's so wonderful. If you wrote a chapter called What They'll Remember Me For, what's the title?
That I was a great encourager of people.
That's good. Love that. What's one piece of advice you give to someone listening who just got promoted?
um you have you don't know everything that you need to know. And so you have got to get internal mentors, but look, you can get outside mentors as well. Okay. And so that means, uh, you've got to find podcasts. You've got to, Simon Sinek is one that I really like. You got to go out and you have got to find people who understand supervision and leadership, and you have got to fill your brain and speak wisdom to you so you don't have to make all the mistakes, right? I mean, how many people do you believe that you have to make all the mistakes yourself? No, right? We can learn from other people's mistakes. The best mentors are people who are about 5 to 7 years ahead of you in your career because they remember what it was like to be you. So if you don't have somebody like that in your organization, or if you don't have a formal mentorship program, go find somebody in your organization that could be and say, hey, could we go to coffee a couple times, I don't know, a month or quarter or something? And if they say no, okay, look outside your organization, right? It could be somebody that you're sitting across from Thanksgiving dinner. Some of you have really wonderful folks who were excellent managers and really big organizations sitting across the table. They'd love to spend time with you talking about management and how you develop people. Find somebody who's got some military background. Find somebody who's managed people at a certain level. Will be very flattered to share their knowledge and experience with you. Ask.
That is amazing. You are so right. And I love that you said outside the organization. It's why we have book club because we're bringing as much knowledge for free to all of our employees that want to be involved in that because we read books like Simon Sinek stuff. And when you said Seven Habits, it's literally my favorite book on the planet. And I hate reading. So that tells you a lot. Yeah, just completely blew my mind. That was a fantastic answer. Becky, that was all of my questions. You absolutely slayed it today. There's so many good nuggets in here. I want to give you the floor. What should people know? What do you want to express to people? What do you want them to do?
So I love to connect with people on LinkedIn. It's how I connect with folks. And so it's Becky Becker and then the letters SPHR. So if we're not connected, please connect with me there. If your organization is involved with the US Navy at some point and you don't know about the work the Manufacturers Association's doing, reach out to me about that. If you have supervisors, even one that needs some of this work, this help, this coaching, this guidance, we're here for you. If you don't know about the Manufacturers Association, you want to know more, let us know. we're a resource, and we love to help people succeed.
You got my brain cranking, especially spending a week in the shop this week. I got to have a lot of conversations. I always end my week by getting around to everybody and talking to everyone just about betterment or things that are frustrating or whatever. And so lots of leadership talks today, and it's really got my brain cranking. So this was perfect timing. Um, yeah, and thank you for really just saying the things that sometimes we don't wanna say as an industry, and I appreciate that because we are going to pull ourselves through the mud, and get ahead of this thing, and I really do believe that because we have a lot of young people who are really looking for opportunity, I think that are gonna think quite differently, and I'm excited to see what happens.
Right, thank
Well,
you for the opportunity. Love your podcast, so looking forward to seeing more of them.
yeah, this was amazing. Thank you for coming on. Thank you for reaching out to me too, because not everybody does. And I've actually been a little bit of a gap for guests, so I was very excited. I was like, oh my god, somebody wants to come back on. So I was super pumped. So thank you for that.
Oh, you are very welcome. All right,
Cool.
have a wonderful Thanksgiving.
Yeah, we'll catch everybody on the next one.